Horror movie fans, how are you doing? This is Killer Cuts. My name is Bobby Munson, and joined as always by the natural Astro Pizarro as we give you horror movie reviews. Yes, we have got Ready or Not 2 on the docket here today. Astrid, how are you doing?
Doing better now that I woke up. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's as we're recording, it's Friday. Hopefully, people are ready, geared up for the weekend, ready for movie weekend. Of course, this is the second weekend now that Ready or Not 2 has been released, coming out just last weekend. We didn't get to the review here till a little bit later than usual, but we definitely, as always, love talking about the movies that we watch, especially when it comes to horror movies that we have seen. And here we are, Ready or Not 2, the new one from the Radio Silence team. We know we've been very fond of a multitude of Radio Silence's films before, but just where would this one land, I guess, is the curious case here. Would this be as good as the first one, better than the first one, or is it a misfire? Well, I mean, before we get too into depth with it, I will say that I enjoyed myself watching this movie. I felt like it was fun. It still carries a lot of the over-the-top fun, bloody mess that the first one was. And I know we were talking before we started recording, and I said the only thing is why people will enjoy the first one better than this one is because you weren't necessarily ready when it came to the first one. When you watched the first one, it was like, oh, this is different. And then when you watch this one, the expectation is already there. So the element of surprise is a little bit less. Not to take away from this movie, though. It was still a lot of fun. Your initial thoughts on it before we go a little bit more in depth?
Yeah, it's one of those things like I'm not saying that I hated it because I really enjoyed it, but nothing's ever gonna be like the first one. Nothing's gonna surpass that one. I always say it's like kind of like Scream. It's like sequels suck, but this one doesn't suck. But it's not gonna be ever the same. Once you do those rankings, the original always ends up being somewhere in the top because it's the foundation of it. It's the first time you watch something like this with Ready or Not. But once you go to the second one, you obviously expect something similar in that sort of way. So it didn't have that element of surprise that the first one has. So I feel like that's what makes number one definitely number one.
100%, I agree with you. So with this time around, Ready or Not 2, Here I Come follows up immediately following Ready or Not. We follow Grace, once again played by Samara Weaving. How did this come across for you? Because I absolutely adore Samara Weaving. I think she's fantastic. It was an interesting choice to go immediately following the last one, considering that 2019 was the release of Ready or Not, and here we are in 2026. Not to say that it seems like, Samara Weaving has aged 7 years in that time or anything like that, but time gets us all. It definitely does. So it definitely an interesting take to go immediately afterwards. But again, right away, once you get into the movie, I mean, you forget all about it, really. I mean, after about 2 minutes, I was like, oh yeah, I'm past that. It doesn't matter anymore. But definitely interesting that they decided to follow immediately following the first movie.
Yeah, I give them props for the way they were able to basically replicate it the way they did. Because I'm the kind of person who would have been like, that looks different from like the first one if I would have noticed it. I don't really feel like I noticed any differences between the ending of the first one and obviously the beginning of this one. But I like the continuity of it. I love how we go from like basically from chapter 1 to chapter 2 like this. So it's always very interesting when they started that way, and I went, I like how they started exactly where the other one ended. It's just also curious in this part too, because when I first started watching it, I kept thinking, oh, they're definitely going to believe her. She's the victim in this and she's going to be fine. And it's just ironic to see her like recovering in the hospital with handcuffs because they obviously don't believe anything about what just happened to her. And I was like, poor thing. They just think about it. It's like the house is full of bodies and she's the only one left. So she must have done everything. And I felt so horrible for her. The fact that I'm like, she just went through a lot of trauma with all this, trying to survive the night. And she has to deal with this on top of it. It doesn't end for her at all, does it?
No. And then, of course, we're introduced to her sister who comes to the hospital because she had left her as her only emergency contact. They haven't talked to each other in a lot of years. There is a detective that is at the hospital saying that, of course, she is in a lot of trouble because, of course, they found bodies. They found blood all over the dress she was wearing, none of which was her own blood, despite the fact that she, of course, had the bullet through the hand, several lacerations, all these different things that had happened to her. But at the same time, the obvious assumption, like anyone would believe, is that she must be behind all of this. What we do find out, though, is that the game isn't officially over. Just because she has won the initial hide and seek game doesn't mean that things have changed, because we find out that there is a a bigger lore to all of what is going on in this whole thing. There's actually four families that essentially are the hierarchy of the world, with one particular seat belonging to a family that will then essentially make every rule, and everything that happens across the globe, it all comes down to this one family that sit in this power seat. Right now, the power seat being held by the again, I forget the family name, but the one that holds it, he essentially, in having this all go off and go in the way it is, it opens up a new log, and the new log states that the four families now have to compete to try to go back and play the game again, redo the hide and seek game again. And this time, whoever manages to kill Grace will then take the seat and take all the power. So there are certain rules to this. Of course, you can't kill any of the other family members. That's not allowed in this particular game. So they go about to go try to play this. But of course, there is the young kids, or the kids of the old man that sits in the seat. And in order for them to go about this, he would have to compete in the game first. And so because this is not a good sign for him, because he is on his deathbed already, he asks for his kids to let him go. So basically, they hold a pillow over his face, they suffocate him, take him out, meaning that they will play the game. And because they're twins, they have a ruling where they can play together, giving them an advantage over everybody else. Now, it is a little battle royale. So it's, as the family sit there, if you have multiple family members, if one is taken out during this time, essentially your next family member next in line gets to come in. And this created for some, I would say, fun comedy moments throughout this as well too. Some of the fun characters, especially the one character that was there, and he really essentially did not want to have to go out into the battlefield after seeing people taken out. So he then signs over all of his stuff, everything, all his rights to his wife, and essentially says, now you get to go battle. And she says, fine. She gets in a vehicle. She drives through the front gate of the place, leaving and knowing that she's just taken all of her husband's assets, and he is left with absolutely nothing. I thought that was such a delightful touch in this movie. Great piece of comedy. I thought some of the additions, like having Sarah Michelle Gellar in here, Elijah Wood, also great in this movie as the lawyer to the four families in this situation. The blood is over the top, obviously. Great fun with the gore throughout this movie, as always with most radio silence films. But yeah, I thought that it was an interesting way to take this situation. And of course, it just so happens because Grace's sister happened to be at the hospital, she becomes a person of, an innocent bystander, so to speak. And because Grace doesn't want to play along, that becomes the thing. It's like, you either play or we take your sister out, kind of thing. So she essentially plays along to keep both her and her sister alive. And at first they're in handcuffs together, knowing that they've kind of got to stick together at first in order to make this all work. I thought that those two paired together throughout this movie helped hold this thing together perfectly. I thought that they were the central force throughout this movie that made me glued to it, made me want to keep continuing to watch it as well too.
Yeah, the family you were talking about, which is with I think Sean is his name in real life, and Sarah Michelle Gellar. They're in the Danworth
Yes, yeah.
twin. So I like the inclusion of that here, because I kept thinking, as I told my boyfriends, like, as we're watching this, like, and I think I mentioned to my family later on as well, as like, I love the fact that we get Sarah Michelle Gellar being involved in these like horror movies, from like Scream to I Know What You Did Last Summer, to being in a movie like this so many years later. So it's always interesting, like, the different takes she has for these movies. I do love the addition of Catherine Newton to this movie, though. I feel like she adds a little bit of a comedic relief in some points, but also having that dynamic of that sister here with her. I love the fact that I think one of the characters brings it up in your movie, that their names are Grace and Faith. Like, your family must have been right into like the religious aspect of it because of your names. So I thought it was a nice touch to that as well. I love having the radio silence, like, final girls being here. I know something that a lot of people mention online too, that there's one of the characters who was dressed up like a bride at one point, and then people see her in the way she is dressed up. A lot of people thought that maybe this could have been from Melissa Barrera, which would have been the other Radio Silence final girl, aside from Jenna Ortega. I think that would have been interesting if she was a part of it too. I don't know why she wasn't, but I think that would have been interesting if she would have been a part of it too. But again, I love the dynamic here. Like you said, with the handbook, I like that they gave us more of a backstory as to why these games are happening, and the chairs and the families. Like they give us a lot more like rules to it and more background story that we didn't get in the first one as to why this is happening, like the competition and the overall like rules of the cult, basically that it's the background to this. So I like having that backstory to it because it makes like I feel like it helps us understand a little bit more of what was happening in the first one too.
Yeah, and a lot of people are going to pick it apart and say it gets very bloated, and I don't necessarily disagree because some of the rules do get a little bit stretched
Mm-hmm.
out, far fetched. And for those listening that have not seen the movie yet, you don't want the spoilers. I'm going to start spoiling for you, so careful. So essentially, with the families involved here, suddenly there's one of them that decides to let the girls know that if they make an agreement to marry her son, that then there is a rule that the game then stops and they will get the seat and start to rule, and they would take the Danworth family out in the process. So when it seems like there is nowhere left to go, Grace is she's inside of a cooler or refrigerator unit, while on the outside you've got the Danworth twins there with her sister captured, threatening to kill her if Grace doesn't come out. And Grace agrees to come out if the Danworth son marries her. And she says about the agreement, which he didn't know about either. So he has to look over at lawyer Elijah Wood over there, and he just kind of nods like, yeah, I've read this 20,000 page book of rules that we created some centuries ago for this whole thing. And it's true. That is the case. So they make this agreement. Her and her sister are going to be kept okay as long as she goes through the marriage. And I'm like, well, how are they going to get out of this one? Like, where are they going to go from here? And of course, then the wedding happens. They go through with it. I'm like, I really thought that this was going to get into one of those, like, right before she says, like, I do, she was going to say, like, just kidding or something like that. And then it was going to turn into an absolute bloodbath of sorts. But it doesn't right then and there. So the wedding happens, and then she turns around. She does eventually go on a bit like she gets the death of her husband in there, and then denounces her own power, which means that by doing so, they've got to tell Dawn to decide who is going to take over. And basically, it becomes open season for anybody, including people outside of the families, to which Grace then figures like, okay, well, in order to do that, they have to get the one
ring.
the ring or whatever, right? So she takes it and she throws it into that deep pit of just bodies and mashed up blood and everything. And of course, it's a ring. So already it's going to be like finding a needle in a haystack. And then you start piling not only the families that want to get in there, but all of the people that have been working for the families that wouldn't regularly have any ability to gain this power are suddenly like, no, forget about this. I'm getting that damn ring. And so they all start jumping into this pit together, and it becomes this bloody battle royale in the finale of this thing of just bodies being taken out in all the most grotesque types of ways. Just absolutely delightful bloodbath at that point. And the best part is essentially it doesn't really happen for anybody in the end. This really ends with the girls walking away from this whole thing probably severely messed up and needing years and years of therapy after this, but they kind of look back and there's Elijah Wood and this figure, this, comes across like this ghostly figure upon this like Satan seat that sits there in front of the pit, shows up kind of thing. And that's really how this thing goes. It's like, that is it. But that end, I thought the end was kind of wild. It's very bloated. It's insane. It's over the top, but it's fun. If you want to watch a crazy bloodbath that you don't need to take too seriously, just have fun with it. It was a good time.
Just like you, and I like how I thought about it, and then Louis said it right as I was thinking about it. I really thought she was gonna wait until Dawn literally just not say I do, so that way nobody would have the ring by Dawn, so that way everybody would start exploding. So I was expecting more of that end of it. I like how she was like, if I have the ring, that means I have the power, so I can do anything with it, right? And he's like, yeah. What I would have liked more about this, I really, because Elijah Wood is such a big name, I was just hoping he would join in on either on the game or on the last part with the ring somehow. And I wanted him to get more involved in the aspect of it rather than just be kind of like I don't want to say background character because he shows up a lot in the movie, but it's more in the background in the sense that he's not a part of the action either. He's not part of the like the hunting itself. He's not a part of the bloodbath here either. He doesn't try to get for the ring either. He just takes the book and hides because he knows everybody's gonna start exploding soon. After everybody explodes, he just leaves, and he's not really a part of the action. He's just there. So I really was hoping he would join in a little bit more. That was the only thing I was kind of like disappointed with because it's such a big name in the cast that we have here, everybody. So I was hoping he would have a little bit more of a bigger role in that aspect of it. But I love the fact that it's just funny when you see him get so separated by it. He knows what people are going to expose. So he's just taking a back seat. And then when he starts reading the rules to everybody, just expecting them to like, here, I'll sign the papers away if I have to do this. I'll sign away this or whatever. And he just like enjoying the show from the sidelines,
Yeah.
basically, as it is. But I really wanted him to get more of a part of the action. But it's just funny seeing his face of like he knows he's stirring up trouble. So he's just smiling as the lawyer because he knows what he's doing at the same time. Um, but overall, I enjoy the action. Like I said, I like the team of Catherine and Samira and just that sister bond that they have. I like how we go from mixing up the hunting, but we also mixing up their stories and the backstories of like them reconciling, getting back together, and kind of catching up with each other this whole time. And we also get Samara trying to explain to her what she's been through before this whole thing started, of what this is, at the other hand as well. So I feel like there's two storylines happening at the same time, and I enjoy like the mix of them too. And just to me the deaths are like the special effects in them. I want it feels weird to say, but they look incredible. Because there's the one guy that gets killed by the pool table. Like that was one that I was like, whoa. And the one that it was like, I guess it was a washer, and the washer had like I don't know if it was hand sanitizer that they had put in there or whatever it was that then basically made it melt. So I think the special effects for that one look pretty like gruesome as well. So I like the overall like special effects with it. Catherine having that fight with the brother was intense too, like watching that happen as it happened. Samara fighting with the other girl with the bright dress, like especially because they're both blinded, so it was pretty funny. With the music happening in the background at the same time, it's like I like how we have the two storylines, but we also have a little bit of like comedy in between everything. So it's like it was just a moment to like breathing room between the horror and the comedy. But I feel like they balance it out really well.
Yeah, I agree. And going back to Elijah Wood's character, I almost kind of wonder if the choice to leave him in the way that they did opens up the idea that if they wanted to create more, that they don't necessarily have to have Grace's involvement going forward, but his involvement would lure more people into this. Like, how do they go about this satanic ritual being brought back? Which families can be involved? Who are they going to reach out to, and who's ready to play another game? Maybe the next game isn't hide and seek. We don't know what other games were available for choices. Like, so maybe this wraps up Grace's story, but then maybe there's another story to be told yet, and he's at the center of it and becomes more of a central figure, similar to what Tony Todd's character was to the Final Destination movies. You could have Elijah Wood's character be a little bit more than that. And I thought he was great too. Like I like Elijah Woods a lot, and he's so like the little smirks that he does. He almost doesn't even need to say anything. It's like he says enough just with the way he emotes throughout this thing. Absolutely fantastic. I've always been a big fan of him. The only thing I really hate about Elijah Wood is that it looks like he's still the same age as he was when he was in fucking Radio Flyer back in the 90s. That guy never ages a day. I mean, compliments to him only, but wow, incredible. But yeah, I enjoyed this. Up against other Radio Silence films, I mean that proves interesting. If I was to take a look at the whole collection of Radio Silence films, it's like if somebody wanted me to rank them, where would I rank this? And sadly, it would be lower on my ranking for Radio Silence films. But that's still not a negative against it at the same time, because the Radio Silence films are so damn good that it's kind of hard for me to be like, well, no, it's better than Abigail and Scream, and no, it's not. But it's still really a lot of fun, and I think people should go enjoy it in the theaters, support it, so that we get more bloody gore fests in the theaters. I want the theater to be stacked with horror movie options every weekend to go check out.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely hard to rank it in that aspect of it, because like I said, it's like you see something like Abigail that's something so original, so it's like you want to put it high up. You see the first one out of Ready or Not, you're gonna put it high up on the sequel because this is the one that gave you the beginning of it all. And again with the Scream movies, it did so well remaking them. So it's like it's always going to be high, but it's not as high as the original ones because it's just difficult to to up rank those. But I'll say I'll give them props to like the overall like story, the special effects, the deaths as well, and overall just how they basically used everybody. Because I like the same time I like how you see a lot of different characters and they give us backgrounds into all these characters somehow in different parts of the story here, and I feel like they balance that out really well of like giving us who the characters are, what their intentions are, um, just overall like the scenes of them basically hunting them down and the girls basically trying to outsmart them in any way, shape, or form that they could. So I overall that was really interesting to watch. But again, it's like I feel like they did really well mixing so many things at the same time, and I like the fact that it had its time to like really develop, which is what an important thing in the story overall.
Oh, couldn't agree with you more. So yeah, I mean the recommendation is go check out Ready or Not 2. Again, there isn't much coming out in theaters this weekend. There's almost a Ready or Not 2, sorry, knockoff coming out this weekend. Maybe it's good. I'm not making judgments. We'll have to check it out. But they will kill you, I believe is the name of the movie that comes out this weekend. Sounds like a very similar premises to what we're talking about here, but please, even if you're checking that one out, go check out Ready or Not 2. Support our movies in the theaters because, man, it's been a great start to 2026. There's been a lot of great horror movies that have been hitting theaters so far, and we couldn't be more excited and happy to be talking about them right here. I'm going to go ahead, give this one a thumbs up. Recommendation for this one. I assume pretty similar from yourself, Astrid.
Yeah, I was like, I definitely recommend it if you are one of those like that don't remember. I would say definitely watch the first one before you watch this one. If you hadn't watched it, if you need a refresher, because I feel like it will make more sense as you watch them kind of close to each other, like I said, because the next one really starts where the other one ended, and it will make more sense moving on from that. But overall, like I said, it's like I love the effects. I love the story, how they develop the characters, and they did really great job with it. So I like the fact that even though it took this long to get a sequel, they really took its time with the story, and it makes sense that it took this long for them to make it as well. So I again, it's like I don't have any particular like negative feedback towards it. I would say watch it and then enjoy it more than anything, and let us know how you feel about it afterwards.
That's right, because we have a comment section. Let us know in the comments what you thought of Ready or Not 2. Here I come. Of course, you can go back and watch any of our other reviews that we've done here for Killer Cuts right here on the channel. Let us know what your thoughts are on those, or maybe you have recommendations of movies we haven't reviewed yet that you'd like to see reviews here from us. Let us know. Reach out to us. But speaking about reaching out to us, as we're wrapping things up, I am going to go ahead and put your ticker up on the screen. Astrid, you let the people know where they can find you and what you got coming up next.
Yeah, Tuesdays taking over with Ed, and aside from that, every now and then whenever we decide to do killer cuts, when we have something new, thankfully we've been having a lot of like newer stuff aside from the usual like Halloween type time, so that helps. Aside from that, you can find me. My Twitter is Astrid Pizarro, and my Instagram and Threads is Astrid Pizarro 20. If you're here, you're most likely in my YouTube channel, so hit that subscribe button and hit the like button too, and you see hype points on not only my channel but the Oily channel as well.
You bet, yes. As for myself, Bobby Munson, here is my ticker. You can find me over on all social media at Real Bobby Munson, Video Bros SK, where you can find me next. Of course, I'm every Saturday with Papa Smokes on the commentary team for Prairie Pro Wrestling. New match every Saturday for you. Sunday's a new point of view with Andre. We talk about the week in sports, and Thursday nights, Papa Smokes and I are right here on OLE Podcast, bringing you Ring Respect Radio, from talking about the history of pro wrestling to reviewing independent wrestling, all right here. And you can catch all sorts of movie reviews. I'm going to try to get some more out coming up, because I do watch an obscene amount of movies, so I probably should get back to reviewing them. But that's not important. What is important is OLE Podcast. That ticker right up on the screen is going to take you to all of our social media where you can go and support this channel. You can also support us on YouTube and Twitch, where we're a partner on both those things. So you can give us super chats, super stickers, all that wonderful stuff. But hey, we love if you even just take a moment and you were entertained here today to go click the subscribe button down below, turn on the notification bell, give the video a thumbs up, and leave us a comment in the comment section below, because YouTube cares about stuff like that. That's how the algorithm works. And if you like this, go watch another video, because also how the algorithm works. And like Astrid said, if you're watching on our channel, and I believe yours is set up for hype points as well too, Astrid, if you're watching on a mobile, that's all you got to do. Pick up that phone, log into your YouTube account, slide across the screen to the part that says hype. You get 3 times per week that you can hype up your favorite shows, and we'd appreciate if some of those hype points were shared right here on Killer Cuts so we can get seen by a lot more eyes and we can get these reviews out to the masses. But we appreciate everybody who is tuned in. Thank you very much, and we will see you at the very next movie.